Hey guys. Okay, so
Hello.
sorry. We've been having all the technology issues like all day long. We went and did this whole thing for you guys in our room, and Facebook just deleted it. Magic. So we are going to re-record it now for you guys so that
I'm
somebody can
gonna
actually, I
I'm
know,
gonna
we're
laugh
like,
if it's gonna be on there like when we're done recording this.
probably, but we love you guys so much. We're willing to do it again for you because we want to
Yes.
get these questions answered. So please bear with us. Our normal technology StreamYard was for whatever reason not working this morning. So fingers crossed we can get that figured out so we can get back to doing joint live videos for you guys. But for now, it's just going to have to be a pre-recorded, uploaded one. So we
Yay.
apologize for that. So okay, so we've got a couple questions for you. We're just going to keep it kind of short today and brief. I know with everything going on and all the Zoom, I feel like we've all been doing. I feel like I'm over the really long videos, and I'm sure you guys are too. So we're going to keep it short and light, so you guys can easily digest all the information we're going to hit you with in this. So, yes, Britt, did you want to kick it off?
Yeah, all right. So question number one is all about hormone shifts over the month and life. So do she this wonderful person was asking, do I have to get a baseline with a doctor to really lose weight, or can it be managed naturally?
Okay. So it depends on what type of hormones we're talking about here. And I just want to preface this too by saying anytime it comes to any medical condition, issue, question, like we are not healthcare providers, we are not medical providers. Definitely check with your doctor or your healthcare professional. So I'm just going to put that out there before we start talking about it. What we're going to share is our experience as coaches and things that we have researched and understood from our own knowledge and understanding. I'm repeating myself, but it's all good. But anyway, so always check with your medical provider, your doctor. That's the moral of the story here. So okay, so it really depends again on what type of hormones we're talking about here. So if we're talking about thyroid levels, that's definitely something you would want to get handled with your doctor to the point where they're within normal levels to be able to lose weight effectively. So that's one, definitely talk with your doctor. If we're talking about cortisol levels, which in this case, like could be increased due to stress, it's not going to specifically cause you to gain weight, but it really can affect your body composition in different ways. And so essentially when your cortisol levels are higher, what happens is your body is going to direct fat storage to your abdomen instead. I mean, you can't see my abdomen, but I'm pointing to it here. Because it's more easily accessible there than when it's stored in like other areas of your body. Um, and like, just think about it like this. So like, if you're in fight or flight mode because you need to run from a threat, your body is going to want that energy as easily accessible as possible so that it can keep going and be as efficient as possible and not have to use extra energy pulling it from some random extremity, right? Like if it's like in our arm somewhere, that's kind of hard to get it, it's got to go all the way through the bloodstream back to circulate where it needs to go, right? Versus in your abdomen, which is really easily accessible. So um, and if you are, I guess, to translate this to something that makes sense from a day-to-day perspective. So like if you are under chronic stress because of work, for example, your body's going to have higher levels of cortisol continuously, which means that your body is going to be directing any excess calories that you take into your abdomen, like we just talked about. Another thing that's going to happen with higher cortisol levels is that it can affect your hunger hormones. Which is going to also influence your hunger signals. So you might have an increased appetite, which then causes you to eat more, which then could cause weight gain. So that is kind of a mechanism through which you could see weight gain or struggle losing weight with cortisol. And with after we post this, we're also going to share some links for some additional reading for you guys too, just so that if you want to get into all the sciencey stuff, you can read it there. So then finally, if we're talking about menopause, which I think we are because that was referenced in the actual question, I don't think it ever hurts to talk to your doctor about managing your symptoms. But when it comes specifically to weight gain, research hasn't been able to establish a specific link between changes in your hormone levels during menopause and weight gain. Instead, what tends to happen is that as we get older, we become more sedentary, which then decreases our total energy needs and can lead to weight gain. And then also, in addition to that, basically, if we are less active, we're also going to be losing muscle mass as we age. So that can also impact our energy needs as well. And at the end of the day, it really just comes down to the general principles of energy balance. So energy in versus energy out. But again, it never hurts to chat with your doctor about what you're experiencing. We'll also have a link to more information on this one as well if you guys want to read.
Awesome. And I just wanted to quickly chime in a little bit when it comes to like finding information like this out on the internet. Like I know it can be very confusing because you can find any answer you want given by any person who proclaims to be an expert on this. And so I just the links that we're going to be referencing are from Today's Dietitian, which is a very reputable site. Can't talk. But there's also like
live quality content, not live.
Yes. But also it's important to look for like, you can look at like university websites. They have really reputable information. Also, there's different research websites. Sometimes those can be a little wordy and difficult to understand. But it's just important to kind of make sure that you're getting your information from people who really understand the content compared to people who are just sharing their opinions, or like news websites that a lot of times share their opinions too. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Britt. I feel like there's just so much like just misinformation out there. And I'll add to that too, like beware of clickbait articles too. A lot of times like the media loves to reference experts, which is awesome. It's great that they're referencing the registered dietitians, the doctors, and everybody and the experts on the subject matter. But what can happen is a lot of times they will get comments from that professional and then they'll insert them in their article, maybe out of context, or they will extrapolate something from it. And while the information the professional has given is awesome, incredible, and useful, the rest of what the media has done with that message gets distorted, and it further gets distorted when they need a clickbait headline. So watch out for those too as well.
We're off our little tangent now. We'll go off our tangent, right? Okay, let's go back to this. The second question we had for the day was about portion sizes, okay? And this person asked, how do I portion out myself and my children so that it's a sensible meal? And also, what are tips and tricks to keep yourself from going back for seconds or dishing up too much the first time, especially when it's super tasty?
Okay, so I'm going to try and do just as good of a job. I feel like I like sped through all of this one on the first run of it that was live. So hopefully I can do it justice this time too. But basically, I'll just go ahead and share some of my thoughts, and then Britt, you could chime in as well with some of your thoughts. But from my perspective, I think that macro counting, again, you don't have to do macro counting. This is just from my background, what was really helpful for me personally. I find that macro counting can really help you better understand personalized portion sizes. I feel like portion sizes is kind of like a nebulous term because it means something different for everybody. And like, you've got the portion sizes on the packages, so you can like take a look at that, and that can be a helpful reference. But it's important to know what a reasonable portion is for you, right, in your body, your caloric needs, your nutritional needs. And with macro counting, or at least even if you're not tracking it, just establishing kind of those initial goals for yourself, the initial caloric goal. You have your daily protein, carbs, and fat goals. You could have fiber and sodium and other things like that in addition to it. But basically, like, that gives you a benchmark to compare it to. So like, for example, if we're talking about portion size of nuts, let's just say, I don't know, I'm making this up. Like if you only have a goal of, 45 grams of fat every day, and that's the target, that's where you need to stay. If you eat a serving of nuts that has, 19 grams of fat, geez, that's basically half of your fat for the day, right? Like maybe that's not an appropriate portion size for you. I can't say that, right? It's important one to talk with like a registered dietitian, for example, like our awesome registered dietitian who's not with us on this live, but she's super awesome. Alessi, you've probably seen her in the group. Talk to someone like her, or medical professional, especially if you have medical conditions, just because that's going to dictate also what are appropriate portion sizes for you. I'm getting off more on tangents on this one, but that's okay. Important things. So anyway, but it's all relative. That's what I'm trying to say. So knowing what, your needs are can help you determine the appropriate portion sizes for you. You can also use the US dietary guidelines as well to get recommendations on portion sizes for each food group based on your caloric needs. So again, it'll say something like, okay, if you're eating 1,600 calories a day, here's how many servings of, or how many cups of, red and orange vegetables you need every day, or whatever. Like they'll kind of break things down like that. but that's even more individualized because it's going to break it down by calorie level for you as well. For the actual physical portioning of it, I love using a food scale. This is just my preference. I think it's so much easier and so many less dishes and more accurate than using like measuring cups and different things like that. And I think it's just helpful because you can have like a nice visual too when you are measuring something out onto your plate or into your bowl about approximately how much that is, and then you don't have the extra dishes to clean up. So yay, I'm always about decreasing dishes. I hate dishes.
Oh yeah.
I think the last portion of the question was about tips and tricks to avoid going back for seconds or getting too much the first time, especially when it's super tasty. So a couple of things that I like to do. So a grazing plate. This is a really good one for the holidays too, especially if you are in a room full of people and everybody's grazing on appetizers and bowls and plates and whatever. Get yourself a little plate or a little napkin and go ahead and portion out there what it is that you want to eat. So like, if they're doing cheeses and chips and dip and whatever, like go ahead and serve yourself how much you want of each of those things and then just graze off of that plate for, the afternoon or however long of a period you want to graze on it or however long everybody else is grazing on it. But so that's one that's really helpful. And then you can kind of stick to what you intend to. You can also take home leftovers to eat another day or, save them if you're the one who's cooking, save the leftovers, set them aside. If you are out at a restaurant, you can ask for a takeout container like as soon as you get your food. And basically then you can just portion out, like if you have a cheeseburger or something, you can cut it in half and put the other half away to have that for dinner tomorrow night. And you could just go ahead and close it and then it's out of sight, out of mind. You're not staring at it. It's not on your plate. Let's see. Another thing that's important is giving yourself full permission to eat whatever it is too, because basically over time, you will stop feeling like you have to take advantage of the only opportunity, right, that you get to eat it. Because if it's something that you get to eat every single day, it stops becoming this, oh my gosh, I have to eat it now because if I don't eat it now, I'm not going to get to eat it tomorrow, or I'm not going to get to eat it next week or whatever. It just becomes a completely non-big deal. Like think about something you eat every day and how big of a deal would it be if you felt like you didn't feel like eating that day? It would probably be like, oh, whatever, I'm going to have it tomorrow. Exactly. Right. That's the point. Let's see. Another thing that's important is to eat mindfully. So savor each bite, really take your time with it, enjoy the food. And then I think the last piece of it that I recall was not dishing up too much the first time. So I have trouble doing this personally with holidays with my in-laws because they make like 20 different foods. Like we're going to Thanksgiving at my in-laws next week and they're going to have like 20 something dishes. I'm sure it's impossible to not take too much because there's just so much to try. But one trick that I love using is basically take less than you think you're going to want. So if you're scooping something out of there, take a look at the scoop and say, okay, is that how much I want? All right, let's put a little bit back and then put it on your plate. And you can always go back for more if you don't get enough, if you feel like you're still hungry. But I find taking a little bit less than you think you're going to need or going to want is helpful, especially when there's a huge number of dishes involved. So yeah. Whew, covered a lot. There was so much packed into that one question. My goodness.
All good tips, all good ideas. I love it. Yeah. And the only thing I would add is just kind of referring to when it comes to children, being a mom of four, I understand the worries and wanting to set a good example for them. And I've definitely stressed about that. And I think it's important to realize that a lot of times just by your example, you can, you set the standard of what it should be and not really kind of enforcing them to follow it or to be strict about it. Because I don't know, sometimes kids sometimes they need to eat an extra plate, or sometimes they don't want to eat it. And it's just important to kind of let them kind of understand those cues on their own. But then also just have, trust that and be compassionate with yourself that you're setting a good example and you're doing enough for them, and not stress about it too much was just all I wanted to share.
Such a great point. I feel like kids are so good at like self-regulating. Like I feel like we can take some cues from them sometimes. Like they're so good about stopping when they're full, or like, I don't know, at least the kids I've seen. I can't speak for your kids, but like the ones that I've seen, I don't
especially when it comes to dinner foods. I feel like if it's sweets, that's another story. But
yeah, that's true.
But I'm like, when it comes to dinner foods, they definitely like, I feel like they know when they're really hungry or they're not. So, yep.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Woohoo! All right,
Awesome.
guys. Well, that's all we've got for you today. Again, apologies for this not being live. I mean, it was live. We did it live for those of you who were able to join. Awesome. For those of you who weren't, I'm sorry. Here's the replay. We did it again for you.
Yay.
What was I going to say? Yeah. So feel free. The other post completely disappeared. So if you have questions that you want us to answer in a future video or a future 2-Minute Tuesday, just drop them in a comment below and we will get those addressed for you. So I hope this
Yep.
was helpful and we'll catch you guys next time.
All right. We'll see ya.